Antarctic, a completely unspoiled and pristine environment. We're going to take you on an expedition that's going to go from the South Shetland Islands right down towards the Antarctic Circle and then back up, working our way north along the side of the peninsula. We're going to take you out in Zodiacs. We're going to share with you the wildlife and the pristine environment here in the Antarctic. It's an incredible place, and hopefully when you go home you'll reflect on what you've seen, and the ice will certainly draw you back again in the future.
Drake Passage, it can either be a flat calm or it can be big swells. You've got the two oceans meeting, the Pacific and the Atlantic, strong currents, the low pressure systems that sweep up off the Antarctic, the amount of ships that were damaged round in the Horn, particularly sailing around to the west. They had no idea what the weather was going to do in front of them, so it has a terrible reputation among sailors, and there's a lot written about the storms and the ships lost there. We had about 6-metre swells this time coming along, and it's kind of your rite of passage to get to the Antarctic, and I think it would be all too easy if it was such a flat crossing all the time. I've been fortunate enough to come to the Antarctic now since 2003, and every year it just draws me back. It's such a magical place. You can come back to the same place every year and there's always something different. It might be the ice that changes. You can visit the same penguin colonies. Every week the Antarctic changes, so you never get tired of it. It's such an amazing place. Afternoon everyone, and welcome to Varientas Island. We arrived in the South Shetland Islands this morning. We come in nice and slow, and we actually made our first stop here on Varientas Island. Nice Gen 2 penguin colony, chinstrap penguin colony for our first landing. Chicks are well advanced. This is one of the earliest hatching colonies on the peninsula, with it being that bit further north. The chicks are at the stage now where they're crashing on the beach. They'll soon be starting to lose their down and gain their feathers. If you look around the beach, there's a lot of chasing going on where they're chasing the parent birds looking for food. And they're at the very curious stage. If you sit quietly here on the beach, these chicks are actually coming to investigate us.
I didn't expect the feeling when as soon as we stepped onto the island, I just burst into tears, and I just feel such a sense of connectedness with a place I've never been on Earth, in a hemisphere I've never been on. It's just an amazing, amazing experience, and I'm so glad I'm here.
So as we've just seen, Antarctica doesn't only do happy endings, there is also a lot of carnage down here. The giant petrels and the skuas are always cruising over the colonies looking for their next meal. And we've just seen a giant petrel take a chinstrap chick. Giant petrels are prehistoric looking birds equipped with these heavy hammer-like bills which they use to rip open their prey. They're very heavy birds, and so they just jump on top, way down the chick, and then rip it open with the bill.
It's horrifying, but this is nature, so you have to see, and it's unbelievable action. I mean, I'm a little overwhelmed. This is life, but oh yeah, poor chick.
It's not very often as an adult that you actually get to feel that wonder of a child, but everything I see is like I'm seeing for the first time. It's just beautiful here.
Today we are in Sierra Cove, and it's an absolutely gorgeous day. We've been seeing a lot of humpback whales and some small minke whales as well, and we think that they're feeding. And the Antarctic water is highly productive. There's a rich abundance of nutrients, and because of that you have an abundance of krill, which are the main food source of the baleen whales down here, as well as many of the other mammals and birds that are in this area. Oh, hello, Mr. Whale.
Fabulous.
Well, minke surfaced like right near our zodiac. Several of them. Several of them. We got some really nice shots of humpbacks too, doing their little spy, peeking out. Crystal clear, gorgeous day. Pristine.
Big arch. No, there it is. There's the fluke.
Okay, we are out here now serving hot chocolate dressed as Vikings. Since the Vikings discovered Antarctica, I mean, it's appropriate, I think. No worries, we have friendly Swedish, Austrian and American Vikings. We have hot chocolate for you if you like. And you can have it just as it is, so you can add a little something. Frangelico.
Frangelico.
Two Frangelico.
Yep. Can you believe this? Hot chocolate, peppermint schnapps and humpback whales. What a combination. I've been close to humpbacks. We've been coming down here for years. I have never been in a complete melee of humpbacks like that, in which they're feeding, gorging and teasing us all at the same time. All around us we've got evidence of the old whaling, rusting ships, rusting motorboats, and now we go out in that same bay where humpbacks were slaughtered in their thousands, and they're frolicking out there as if nothing ever happened. And are we the lucky ones? Now, they had every reason to hate every one of our zodiacs for what our ancestors are doing, and now they're friendly, they're oblivious,
and they're actually playing with us as well. It just gives you a wonderful feeling that nature has healed itself down here after 50 years of protection.
Cheers, you guys. Thank you very much. Let's hear it for the whales. For the whales and the Vikings. Woo, woo, woo. Whales. Thank you.
I think we've seen it all. Humpback whale, krill, and Southern Ocean Vikings. That was awesome.
It's another hard day at work. Someone's got to do it.
So we just saw a large group of type A killer whales. It's the largest form of killer whale that you can find down in the Antarctic Peninsula. This is super exciting because this is the first time we've seen them this far south. Normally we see them in the northern part of the peninsula. So we saw a group of about 12 to 15 animals. It had one adult male in it. You might have seen the big tall dorsal fin that can get up to about 6 or 7 feet. We also saw a few young calves, and they were really white in coloration, so they probably just came back from that long distance migration that they make to regenerate their skin cells. So it's super exciting. We know these animals well, and yeah, exciting encounter.
Brisk morning, but we've got lots of the ice floes out there with the seals on top of them, and just crossed the circle.
We're at the Antarctic Circle. It's my 50th birthday! Yay!
We are in the Antarctic Circle.
Nice, how's it feel?
Really good and super duper cold.
Okay, so before we talk about ice on a big scale, we have to look at ice on a small scale. Now remember, all of this is glacially calved ice. So glaciers start as snowflakes, ambitious little snowflakes. And snow has a lot of air in it when it first falls. But it's cold here, so the snow layers up and doesn't melt. And eventually the weight of the snow starts to squeeze the air bubbles out of it. And then you can still see over time air bubbles trapped inside once the snow morphs into more dense ice. Now remember, these bubbles were trapped long before humans were on Earth, long before pollution was around. So if you were to take an ice core and drill down, you can measure the concentrations of different elements, oxygen, nitrogen, and compare it to what we see in the world today and what we knew about the planet at that time in history. You can breathe very fresh air. Not enough air yet. And this is all brash ice, which is the really small pieces of ice that we're seeing. Some pieces of ice look more blue than others. Some pieces look blue, some look white, some look very clear. So when you're seeing solid ice, that's when it's really, really dense ice. There's no air bubbles trapped inside. Snow has a lot of air in it, and those air bubbles scatter the light, and it looks white when we look at it. It's beautiful.
I'm Sheila Gibbons.
Don Gibbons.
This is our 7th continent. It's been a
lifelong dream, and we're really happy to be here. Just kind of almost overwhelming.
And it's so free of man-made stuff that it is pure as I can imagine anything on the earth can be.
So yes, we're out on the ice earlier today and we got a great lesson about the different types of ice from Katie. And so we have decided to sample a few of those fine pieces of ice, the ones with less bubbles, and then the ones with lots of bubbles, and a fine scotch, to see if we can denote the difference in taste and flavor. So that's what the project for this evening is. Cheers. Let's see what she's coming back with. All best ice I've ever had.
When I think of Antarctica, this is what I think of. Ice, vast expanses, mountains, seabirds.
So this morning we find ourselves in the Fish Islands. Right now we're on Prospect Point and I'm standing at the edge of a glacier. A glacier that's fed this body of water behind me with beautiful, beautiful icebergs. We've been really lucky with really nice weather, a lot of clear blue skies, but today there's a low overcast with kind of shapely clouds, but it also has added an element to the light that has been unique so far this trip, and it's been really conducive for photography. So between the calm conditions, perfectly glassy still waters that are reflecting all these icebergs, and the overcast conditions, it's helping to bring out the blues, to bring out the color, to bring out the richness in the ice and the water, and it kind of adds a bit of a saturation that you wouldn't necessarily expect with these conditions. We've had a chance to Zodiac cruise through this sculpture garden of ice. We've had a chance to step on the continent once again, and we're taking in a perfectly beautiful day in the Fish Islands.
Looks good. Let's go play on the ice.
You have to run as fast as you can and avoid heavy lunch.
Like in Hawaii, they say hang loose. So these are the Yellowra Islands, which are a string of small islands that are fairly well colonized by Adelie penguins. There's about 3,000 pairs of penguins. The last complete census several years ago reported about 3,000 pairs of Adelie penguins here. And that might seem like a lot, but there's other colonies in other parts of the Antarctic Peninsula where you might have tens of thousands of pairs of penguins. Similar to the situation we had down in the Fish Islands, you'll see that the colony, you can see them from here, it's little red stained tops of the ridges with little black and white silhouettes on top of them right now. And shags are cormorant relatives. They're pretty much one and the same, but they have a fancy little couple feathers on the top of their head where they get the name shag from. But they're a diving bird as well, but instead of using their wings to propel themselves underwater, they use their feet. Big, huge webbed feet.
And off we went, and it was a beautiful day, I remember. We went down the channel, and it was beautiful. It's one of these beautiful Antarctic days, blue sky, sun shining, the snow, oh, it's wonderful. And unfortunately, on the way to Cape Renard, there was a lot of small snow-covered islands. They weren't very large, you know, so some only about 40 or 50 feet long, and so, but this is snow covered. And we went to Cape Renard, we put up the flag, everything, and everybody re-embarked in the ship, and we were returning to Port Macquarie.
Did you see them?
Yeah, they're pretty cool, aren't they?
Whales at dinner?
Or the other one wants to enjoy drinks while watching
dinner.
So we're out in the Gerlache on our last night on the Antarctic Peninsula, and we've just had a great group of B2 killer whales. They dive deep to over 700 meters to potentially eat, well, fish or squid. And we've just seen quite a large group with a number of adult males, some adult females, and some youngsters, surrounded by Antarctic fur seals. And a lot of them are nice and black and white, which means that they've perhaps recently been away and done their maintenance migration that John and Holly have talked about. And it's just a fantastic way to end this particular trip in Antarctica. Glassy calm seas in Killer Whale Central in the Gerlache Strait. Amazing stuff.
The very first year we brought the hexacopter down was 2016. We were expecting to document really robust animals. The Antarctic Peninsula is a very productive area. And on the very first flight, we documented a number of the B2 type of killer whales that were in really thin condition. And we were really surprised. But what it's a sign of, these animals are reliant on the ice. They feed on penguins that rely on the ice and some other type of squid or fish. And so we started thinking maybe this has something to do with the decline in ice availability around the peninsula.
By being able to study whale health, it really allows us to have a window into what's happening in the ecosystem, what's happening underwater. Whales are the largest predators and consumers in the system, and so it really allows us, they're kind of like the canary in the coal mine in many ways. We can look at their health and look at emerging issues. And we're starting to see some skinny whales that to us indicate there's an emerging health issue, and it encourages us to do more of this and monitor this over time and see if there's a trend to it. being able to ride along and be hosted on board an expedition ship like the National Geographic Explorer is so valuable to us. We get to do our research, we're very successful every trip, but we get to share that with the guests, the naturalists and the crew on board. And you know, it's a great experience to be out conducting research and share that in the evenings with the guests. And you know, I think it's a great example of citizen science as well. Not only do we do research, but we take photographs of whales, and we accept them from the guests who take photographs also, and we use those in our abundance estimates. So you know, I think it's great to be part of an expedition where there's research and education happening at the same time.
A lot of chin-strap penguins with a few jumpers scattered around here and there. And then there's some fur seals fighting like everywhere. And it's really windy. You almost feel like the wind would make you be able to fly. It's so windy.
I think this by far is the most interesting part that we've landed on, because we've got so many varieties of wildlife, and the scenery is spectacular, and we have a little bit of sun poking through the clouds, so it's great.
Well, I don't want to leave yet. I wish it were a couple days longer.
How do I get back here so soon? As quickly as possible, please.
We've just had our last day in the Antarctic of our expedition, and we've finished up here in the South Shetland Islands again. We've seen some pretty incredible things this voyage, and you're now ambassadors for the Antarctic. Hopefully we'll see how the conservations work for the Antarctic, how it's kept so pristine, and we'd love to see you all back down here again one day.
What are we doing?
Yeah, we're about to do the polar plunge.
3, 2, 1, woo!
Now I know we've been giving you a lot of information, and it's all very confusing, isn't it? You have these long scientific accounts, and towards the end you think, what was that middle bit again? So we've written a simple song to help you understand some key principles. This song has a chorus, and by the time you've mastered the chorus, you will understand one of the fundamental principles of the entire ecosystem down here. Terribly simple. It makes those tiny tiny baby penguins drool. Yes, penguins know this universal rule. Every little penguin learns at school. Repeat after teacher now. 1, 2, 3, 4. All you need is krill. All you need is krill. All you need is krill. Krill is all you need. 30 million seals can't be wrong. Furries and crab eaters sing this song. Now you know it, you can sing along. Well, it's easy. All you need is krill. All you need is krill. All you need is krill. Krill is all you need. It's the favorite food of all the whales. A belly full will make them wag their tails. And you could eat it too if all else fails. Don't be queasy. All you need is krill. All you need is krill. All you need is krill. Krill is all you need. Now you forgot to swipe your card, that onshore check. Now you're walking around, life jackets round your neck. There goes that last zodiac back, but what the heck? It may seem cheesy, but remember what we taught you. All you need is krill. All you need is krill. All you need is krill. Krill is all you need. One more time now. All you need is krill. All you need is krill. All you need is krill. Krill is all you need. Krill is all you need. Krill is all you need.
Bravo! That was Ian Bullock, Doug Gualtieri, and Eric Guth there. Marvellous.